Thanksgiving at my father's house always felt less like a meal and more like a performance. Everything had its place. The silverware aligned. The conversation stayed within acceptable lanes, policy, markets, carefully diluted opinions. Even laughter had a rhythm to it, rising and falling without ever becoming too loud. He liked control. Not in the obvious way. In the way that made people adjust themselves without being told. I arrived 10 minutes late, which was enough to be noticed. He didn't greet me. Just glanced at his watch, then at me. And returned to carving the turkey like nothing had happened. 14 people at the table. Some family. All watching, even when they pretended not to. I took my seat. For a while it was manageable. Passing dishes, small comments. Someone asked me about work and I gave a short answer. My father didn't interrupt. But I could feel his attention shift toward me, like a spotlight warming up. It happened between the main course and dessert. He set his knife down too carefully. I think we need to address something, he said. The room quieted immediately. Not awkwardly, obediently. I remember thinking, just for a second, that maybe this was about him. Some announcement. Some controlled reveal. Then he looked directly at me. She's been stealing. There wasn't a rise in his voice. No anger. Just certainty. It landed heavier because of that. A few people blinked. Someone let out a small, confused laugh. Like they were waiting for a correction that didn't come. I didn't respond right away. Not because I didn't have anything to say. But because I was trying to understand what version of reality he had already decided on. From me. And from my office. That shifted the room. Personal became professional. Serious. I could feel it, the moment people stopped seeing this as a family disagreement and started treating it as information. I didn't take anything. I said, it sounded smaller than I expected. Not weak, just insufficient. He didn't argue, he didn't need to. I've already contacted the police, he said. There are sentences that close doors before you even realize you were standing in one. A few heads turned toward the front of the house, like they expected movement on cue. I felt something tighten in my chest, not panic, exactly. More like a narrowing. Options disappearing one by one. You don't need to do this. I said quieter now. I already have. No one interrupted him. No one asked questions. It was easier, I think, to believe him than to challenge what believing him might mean. The police arrived quickly. Too quickly for this to have been spontaneous. The sound of the door opening, footsteps, the low exchange of voices. It all folded into the room without resistance. Like this was just another part of the evening structure. They asked for my name. I gave it. They didn't treat me harshly, that almost made it worse. Everything was procedural. Clean, as if this were already decided somewhere else. When they put the handcuffs on me, I didn't look at my father. I looked at the table. At the plate still half full. At the glasses. At the people who had been passing me food 20 minutes earlier. No one spoke. Not to defend me, not to condemn me, just silence. I walked out of that house without saying anything else. The next 3 days didn't feel real. Not in a dramatic way, in a muted one. Like everything had been slightly lowered in volume. I answered questions. Provided what I could, sat in rooms that smelled like paper and stale air. There was a moment, somewhere in the middle of it, when one of the agents paused longer than usual while reviewing something I'd handed over. Not suspicion. Not exactly. Interest, I didn't push. I didn't explain beyond what was asked. It wasn't restraint for the sake of strategy. It was exhaustion. And something else. Something quieter. A sense that forcing clarity too soon would only make it easier to dismiss. So I waited. 3 days later. I was standing in a federal office building. Not as a suspect. As someone who had been asked to come. The difference was subtle on paper. It didn't feel subtle in my body. We moved through the hallway without hurry. 2 agents ahead, one beside me. No one explained much, they didn't need to. When we reached his office, the door was already open. He was at his desk. Congressman. My father, the version of him that never looked uncertain. He didn't see me at first. He saw them. He stood halfway, a practiced motion, ready to greet, to control, to redirect. Then he noticed the tone. Something in the room didn't match his expectations. And then his eyes moved past them. To me, it wasn't shock that registered first. It was calculation. Fast, Instinctive. Then the absence of it. The pen in his hand slipped. Hit the desk once. Rolled off the edge and onto the floor. No one rushed to pick it up. The agent nearest him spoke, clear, formal, unmistakable. Words that didn't need volume to carry weight. I didn't step forward. I didn't say anything. I just stood there. Not as an accusation. As presence. The room reorganized itself around that moment. Around what was being said, what was being handed over. What was no longer his to shape. He looked at me again, but differently this time. Not as a problem to contain. As something he hadn't accounted for. There wasn't a confrontation. No apology. No scene that resolved anything neatly. What happened in that office didn't undo the dining room. It didn't return those 14 people to a moment before they had watched me be let out. But it changed something more structural. It removed the certainty he had relied on. And it did it in a way that didn't require me to argue or prove or persuade. When it was over, I left the building the same way I had entered, quietly. Outside, the air felt sharper than I remembered. My phone had messages, missed calls. Variations of the same question asked too late. I didn't answer them. Not yet. Because the truth, once it arrives like that, doesn't repair anything immediately. It just stands there, and waits to see who can face it.